Hey guys, we are here for episode 22 of the Football Truth podcast with Gabriel Glavan.
Yeah,
Hope I
that's
said
right.
that right.
Yeah.
And we connected over Instagram recently, and I thought it would be awesome to have him on to the podcast to discuss his experience working in professional football. He was the director of football very recently for Dinamo Bucharest, which is the biggest club in Romania. They've played a lot in the Champions League and the Europa League. He's also currently working as a lecturer for UEFA in Romania in the football federation. So he's a wealth of knowledge. So thank you, Gabriel, for coming on, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. Just a little thing. Dinamo Bucharest played before the Champions League format. They had
Mm,
that, but in the Champions League is a long life dream for Dinamo Bucharest to play over there. One owner in the past said,
mm.
"Please let us, when he won a game, please let us prepare for Champions League." But we didn't make it to Champions League. We had one game with Lazio that was very close
Yeah.
at halftime, but when we lost it. So this is a long life dream, but I'm hoping that in the future Dinamo will eventually play in the Champions League.
Well, it's a positive affirmation that many years to come in the Bu-
Yeah.
in the Champions League. So, how did you get started? Did you play yourself? How many years did you spend playing?
No, no, I didn't play football at all,
Okay.
actually. I had the dream since I was 16 years old. I was playing with a friend of my football manager,
Mm,
football manager, right, the game. And I told him that I want to be a football scout and eventually to be sport director at Dinamo Bucharest because I was a Dinamo Bucharest supporter since I was a kid from my father as well. So he actually laughed at me and he said, "Yeah, you have no chance being a scout." This was 20 years ago, and I said, "You know what? I'm gonna do it." So, starting emailing players, sorry, clubs, agents, but nobody really answered me because I was just a kid at 16 years old, didn't know nothing about football. But eventually, 10 years ago, yesterday, I made 10 years since I signed my first professional contract in a football club in Romania. So, well,
mm,
firstly, I work with some agents, but in a club I worked 10 years ago, started as a scout. So then I, worked as a scout, head of scouting, head of analysis and performance in clubs, also national team of Romania under 21, head of performance and scouting. Then became sport director in Dinamo and lecturer in the Football Federation where I teach scouting analysis and some modules of management, as well to the BA and Pro license
mhm.
coaches that want to have or have those licenses already, and also in the National Football Academy where I did those courses for scouting and analysis for people that are outside of football because I wanted to create this for people that want to enter football and don't have an actual door because the football environment is so closed. So I know how much I worked 10 years to be in this position, and I know that are so many passionate people around football that don't have access, and I offered this opportunity to people to come and learn. And then also in Dinamo, I did the largest scouting department in Eastern Europe, 60 people, volunteers, following 60 championships,
Mhm.
with people that weren't actually working in football. They applied, and then I took them to a mentorship program, and every scout had their own championship to follow. We made a huge database of players following about 12,000 players every week we were following, and then we every 2 weeks we have these mentorship programs where we discussed about football. We had a training program and also invited in those lessons or meetings that were like 3 hours long with 60 people
Mm,
online, people from outside of Romania that have experience in other cultures and clubs,
mhm.
in order to share of their knowledge to the people. So, and now from those 60, there are 12, no, 15 now, 15 that are actually being paid in the Romanian football.
And they're all still with Bucharest?
With Dinamo Bucharest, we have one head of scouting that
Mhm,
is hired, and four more scouts, chief scouts that are hired now.
mhm.
One analyst that comes also from the department, and other two scouts that went to Rapid Bucharest. They stole those
Yeah.
scouts from Dinamo. One of them was the main performance analysis. So some of them are working in the federation right now. One of them is the head of scouting in the federation. One is the head of development at under 15. One of them is head of development under 19.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, what kind of methodology were you trying to implement with all these scouts? Because it sounds like you were finding people around Europe or like around the world,
No, no, in
perhaps.
Romania, in the country. In the country.
Oh, okay, okay. So only in Romania.
Yeah.
Got you.
Because I
Okay.
wanted to develop the scouting in the country. So
Yeah.
we the course that I was teaching in is made by me because as degrees I have an MBA in football, I have a master in scouting and one in analysis. I have a sporting director certificate and some courses that I've done, at the beginning of my career, like PFCA in UK. But all my knowledge that I have, I share with these people in those courses, and I'm creating for myself competition actually,
Mm,
because people say that is quite bad what I'm doing because I'm taking my job away from me and offering to other people. But actually, I want to have competition in all the country. If everybody would work in the same methodology in implementing scouting analysis and data analysis departments, the Romanian football environment will be more professional and more, developing in this way. It would be amazing. What
hmm.
is people do not what people need to understand that we cannot talk about performance at our level, especially most levels. Performance is made by top Premier League clubs, other clubs around the or Real Madrid, Barcelona, or other clubs, Inter Milan, but other clubs are in development. We need to accept the level that we are. We need to accept that we don't have the best players, we don't have the best people, we don't have the biggest budgets. So we need to understand that we are working in crisis management and risk management mostly. So with the lower the budget, the higher the risk. Because
Hmm.
I had a low budget, I should have taken higher risks in taking people that actually don't work in football and teaching them.
Hmm.
In the mentorship program and what I'm training is I'm teaching them the basis of scouting and analysis, how it's done. In the first training, we discuss technical tactical aspects that are being taught in the football federation that normally they will not have access, but because they are made by me, I can share them with the people that I work with. And also in these meetings that we have from every fortnight, we share videos that they have from their championships and say, listen, this defender did this movement or the striker did like this. Who made the mistake and why? And we discuss to understand and look better at players and how to evaluate them in different contexts, because context is everything.
Hmm.
We should understand. I guess that, in my opinion, scouting is highly related to analysis. So you should be a good analyst, tactical analyst, to understand scouting, because you cannot evaluate the player just based on his qualities. We need to evaluate on his role that he has on the field, not
Yeah.
only his position. Because some clubs, especially in the Premier League now, in the big football right now, everybody plays with high risk. You can see in the Premier League the defense is quite up. They defend 1v1 all the time. Normally, if you learn this, you should retreat slowly to wait for your teammate to come to help you to redirect the striker to a neutral position. But now they only defend 1v1, and who is better, who is more physical, who is more athlete, and has better anticipation and knowledge about the specific situation is better. So a few years ago, you would say that it is a mistake that a central defender can make, but now you can say that he does this because his club actually requests him to play with more risk. So
Hmm.
that's the idea.
Yeah, it's
So yeah.
it's fantastic. I think, well, because like what you're saying about building a robust and sophisticated network of scouts in Romania is a lot different than if you
Yeah.
just have, like the big clubs have one scout and you know, they don't know where the player.
Yeah. So with this scouting network that we have, we know what is happening around the country. I know
Yeah.
actually because it's something
Yeah.
that I know what's happening around the country. But we all know that are in the department, and we all have the information, the general knowledge that we share. So if a scout or somebody let's have an information they can share opportunities that are normally you see on your sites that clubs hire. Clubs don't do that in Romania. they go on networking. So most of the coaches ask me, "Can you help me with the scout or analyst?"
Yeah.
And I recommend, or I make, I talk to the scouts or analysts that I know, and I say, "Listen, there's an opportunity for this club. You should do this task in order to send to the main coach or to be hired." So I would like to do that also in Europe. You can, not only in Europe, you can do this sort of management and departments in any club around the world, no matter the budget, because you don't need a budget to do this. People do
Hmm.
more without money than they do for money. They win knowledge and experience that you cannot buy with money. You cannot.
Hmm.
I work with a lot of coaches, over 25 coaches in Romania. No sport director, but also underneath them as a scout and head of analysis. And what I know, I know for the studies that I have, but also from the experience by sharing and staying with the players, seeing how they react to different pep talks, seeing how to react on different talks that the coaches have in the restroom, or
Hmm.
when we prepare the game, the next opponent. It's very valuable to see how players react. So in this way, you need to understand how you can talk as a player. Because I always wanted to be a sport director, and wanted to know how to talk to players, because they have different typologies and they come from different cultures, not only Romania but
Hmm.
from outside. So what people need to understand in football, even though, and not only in football, but even though you are working with agents, sport directors, scouts, players, we are not working with the jobs, we are working with humans. So you need to be very good at people management to
Yeah.
understand that every person wants to be loved, respected, accepted, and first of all, seen. The biggest threat that you can bring to a person emotionally is being seen and refused, or being seen and rejected.
Hmm.
So not fitting in is something that is very, traumatic for a person to feel emotionally. And fitting in and adaptation is a very big process of the scouting idea. For example, last year in Dinamo Bucharest, I had a low budget, and we managed to make 7 transfers
Hmm.
when we promoted him, because I went to Dinamo Bucharest when Dinamo was in the second division, and I went as a volunteer as a sport director. I didn't want any money because Dinamo was in a bad situation. Managed to promote the club with a new coach and president, and then managed to make the transfers. We had the transfer ban in the second division, so it was quite difficult. But when we
Hmm.
promoted, made 7 transfers, didn't have the results. Made this plan for 10 years. In the first 2 years, I told them, "Listen, this is." We need to respect a different framework, and we need to form our people. We cannot find the people that already know the job. We need to form them. We need to accept that they're not very good, that they make errors. And also the players, they are not very good at this level. If they will do everything good, they will play in Real Madrid.
Yeah.
You need to understand that the players that we have make mistakes and do not interpret the game correctly. So we should create a game model that plays on their qualities, not to tell them, "Listen, you should play like this." And I do. If there is a striker that is slow, we play behind the defensive line and say, "Run." He's slow; he
Yeah.
cannot run. So play on his qualities. You cannot have the luxury to have a complete player at your club at this level and at many levels. We tend to watch Real Madrid and to watch Manchester United or other clubs that say, "Well, this is a complete player." Yeah, because they pay 100 million for that. In Dinamo, we didn't have any budget. I had 3 players that I can offer maximum 8,000 euros, 10,000 euros net per month. So it was quite
Hmm.
difficult. And especially coming to Romania is not the priority for any player on
Hmm.
society. They think that Romania is, not very good at society. But once they come here, they see that it's quite different. Yeah, so that's the idea, creating an environment that is based on some values of learning, of collaboration, of communication, of education is very important. So the first thing that you can do as a club is to know your mission, why we are coming to our jobs every day, why we are playing those games. And from that mission we should have a vision to see where we are going. And then from that vision you should have a strategy to implement to reach that vision. And with that strategy you create an identity that is based on those values. So these are the steps that you need to take in consideration in when you are building an identity or a club.
I agree. Yeah, I think what you're saying is spot on. Basically, as a coach, as a director, you have to understand like who the players are and what you have in front of you, and then obviously play to their strengths in a way that help prevent their weaknesses from being violated.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I think it's a big thing happening nowadays as far as coaches accepting different ways
that,
of coaching players. Because obviously, if you look back in the '80s and '90s in English football, it's like just fucking kick it, and
yeah,
there wasn't much
yeah.
room
But
for you know much room for
yeah,
anything else, right?
yeah, from improvement. Well, improvement starts with accepting.
Yeah, yeah.
This is as a personal level as a collective level, in the same way. We accept the level that we are in, and then we develop a plan. Once we accept it, we develop a plan to evolve or develop. And developing never stops. Of course, it has a stop money wise, but at the level that most of us are working, and especially also the people that are listening to you mostly, we need to accept that we have flaws. People have flaws that we are working with. We are not perfect. We should take the risks. Putting pressure on the players or the people in the departments happens in the very top of the clubs,
Mhm.
because that's why you hire the most expensive player or the most expensive scout or the most expensive analyst, because they provide or they should provide. Over here, they are not obliged to provide because they don't have the background or the knowledge. You should work in mentorship and to help them become a much better version of themselves.
Mhm.
So that's the idea. The people and the management is making them better than they actually are. This is the key in management in any situation,
Yeah.
even if you are a coach, making our players better or the people that we are working with. Unfortunately, not everybody that is around football understand this emotional part and the accepting part. And there's probably in the culture of the US culture, it is more and more present in accepting and the variety and diversity of the culture. But in most environments, we know just one way, and we should do it the way that we learned it as kids or in some way. So it's better to do a mix out of this, preserving the tradition of the culture
Mm.
of the areas, but also having the diversity of the inclusion of the people in developing.
So right now in Romania, what is the current approach in terms of scouting players? Is there a lot of foreigners coming in, or is it mostly Romanian?
There are a lot of foreigners that are coming in, of course, but the problem is that they are not, you know, scouted correctly, to say like this. You
Uh
don't
huh.
have the budget to take the players that you want. Just out of 16 clubs in the first division, I believe that five can pay transfer fees. The rest can, transfer without transfer
Yeah.
fees. So free players actually. But that's the value of the scouting, that you need to develop this network that will help you understand to take the best player that you can get for the money or for the salary that you can offer. But the problem is that the scouting is being done by coaches, and the coaches say, I want this player because they don't know the market, and some players are being proposed by agents that they don't intend any harm. They say, I have this player, look at him. I have five players. These are the five players, choose one. They say, I need a striker. I have five strikers that I propose from you to me. I want this one. It's like going. It's like having staying at home and somebody is getting you, food at the door.
Hmm.
You should go to the supermarket and see that there are many options,
Yeah.
more cheap, more healthy, more in any other way than staying home and being provided with. So in Romania, there are coming a lot of foreigners because the Romanian football has many problems, and the most problem is about education. That in many environment, in education and sporting education, same like this,
Hmm.
because you don't have the methodology in the academies, and forming the players is not correct anymore. For example, we do not understand that talent is developed. We are not born with talent. You are born with a certain amount of motricity or ability to make neural connections in your mind to think
Hmm.
more fast, or you have a genetic and baggage that is you are more lucky with this genetic and baggage. But mostly talent is developed, and we do not know how to develop talent. We understand and see that people in the West are having a bunch of very good players, but we do not understand that those are the players that are developed in the academies, which we do not do. We tend to see a player with potential, and we say that 17-year-old, 16-year-old, 18-year-old has potential, but we expect them to grow like in FIFA or Football Manager by themselves. No, we should
Yeah.
have player development departments that he will not be able to reach his potential that we expect out of him if you do not train him and make special programs for him or of analysis. Or so, coming back to your question, scouting is not evolved in Romania,
Mhm.
and again, this is the problem with education. With the scouting with the scouting department, what is something that I learned is that every scout has his own championship, and I asked for the people that work in the scouting department. Listen, you have been following in the last 6 months this championship from Costa Rica, Honduras, France, third division, Argentina, Colombia, Uzbekistan, Japan. We are following all the leagues. So I have again 12,000 players that we are following every week. But
Mhm.
I asked them, listen, tell me a value that you see in your one or two values that you see in your championship, and if you could take and bring to our championship. And the guy that was following Argentina told us, listen, what I see is passion and respect for the job. The guy that is following Norway says, I see a lot of professionalism. The guy in Sweden says, I see a lot of chances for the youth. The guy in the Balkans that is following Macedonia or Albania, they say, I see a fighting spirit over here. In Germany, I see a game model that is a lot of ration in it.
Mhm.
So the idea is like this. I told them, what you see over there are not the value of their sport specific, are the value of the society, because the main sport of the country is a mirroring of the social values in that country.
Yeah.
The street is reflected on the main sport. That's why the behavior of the street in the US you can see in the NBA or the NFL. In Romania, you can see in soccer, as you say, or in football. So the problem is, if you have a problem in a sport, is the social values, because and the resolve of that problem is creating what we discussed, different values into a club that do not reflect the social values of the environment if you want to grow. So again, education, collaboration, communication, these are values that you should have in any organization. And of course, diversity and inclusion in the US is promoting aggressively, I should say, and is very benefic until a point that you should give a voice to the people that actually do not feel the need to speak or do not, they are introverts, or and
Mhm.
you should have people from different culture that see from a different point of view things. In Romania, we don't have many cultures. We have our own culture, but you can take people from different areas of the country that grow in different environments to on your organization to have this.
You mentioned two amazing points in there. The first one about talent is actually one of my big points that I try to get, that I attempt to get across on social media. That talent is not something that you're merely born with. That talent is molded from age 0 to age 18, and there's many things in between those two dates that can happen, that can improve. It can um, stall your development, and it can worsen your development. And I speak that primarily from an athletic point of view, that your ability to move powerfully and move with explosiveness, and the skill to execute at the highest level in football is not something that is like mystical or a mystery. It's something that actually comes from the brain and the nervous system, and that you can actually train it in a way where you can improve those things just the same way that Neymar or Messi or Ronaldo molded their, talent through childhood. The funniest thing is, there was an article that I read a while ago about the player from Croatia, Mateo Kovacic,
Kovacic.
and yeah, Kovacic, and how, like, obviously Zagreb sold him but there's an article about how Zagreb found him, I think, when he was 13, from some small local academy, and then he, like, almost immediately became one of their highest, like, prospects. And then they were talking about his development, and they were like, well, he didn't actually really develop in our system because he was playing on the streets all day long as a kid, and then he came to us, and then he was like one of the best already. And that's kind of
So
like what like one of my like point of views is like a lot of academies don't actually develop the players. It's like they just find the best players and then hope that one or two of them actually go to the top.
yeah, so you can find, and also depending on the infrastructure or
Yeah.
on the coaches that you have, because talent talent has five corners of development. First, the first one is the environment that the players come from. So it is very important to know the environment, the family, the culture, and
Hmm.
everything to understand that. Then you have access to coaches, quality coaches that can mold in your talent and
Hmm.
understand that for every age group there are specific objectives that you should have and specific personalities of coaches that you should have. Then you have the infrastructure that is as number three. You should have a very good infrastructure to develop. And number four is the adversity that you have. So adversity is very important because you can develop very good with the correct adversity around you. You should not have very low adversity or very high adversity. Normally, the human brain needs around 5% better adversity than its current
Hmm.
level to develop. And the number fifth is opportunity to have all of this close to your environment of development. If you have all of this, you have a chance. Dinamo Zagreb, for example, is a specific model that I know because at Dinamo Bucharest, I hired as a coach the former head of academy at Dinamo Zagreb,
Hmm.
so I know what's happening over there. So in Dinamo Zagreb, they are uh, they um, they have a project for every year. So they have this 2004 Baturina player that is one of their main players at the moment. But every year, like Dani Olmo that is now in Barcelona, like Kovacic, like Modric, like Chorluca,
Hmm.
sorry, players that they're actually one per year. They have a player that they make a project out of it, and they invest everything in his development. They think one player that is the most talented per generation, not two, not three, one, and then develop for the first team. So it's but they are very developed in academy wise and knowledge. But as you said, talent is molded. You are not born with it. You are born with a genetic baggage and a motricity and the specific, let's say, capacity, cognitive capacity to do more faster connection than other people.
Hmm.
But you can never ever say that in history a person was born talented. I do this in my courses, and I ask this question that this talent is born or molded, and a lot of people give me an example that I really love, and I hope for them, and most of the time do. They talk about Mozart. They say Mozart was born a talent. Mozart was not born a talented kid. His father was a violin and piano teacher. Mozart, until 5 years old, had 3,500 hours of practice until 5 years old. Tiger Woods, that you have in the US, his father was very passionate about golf. And when he was just 1 year old, he had, or before, when he started staying on the field, he had his very own golf course to practice.
Yeah.
And, seeing his father, how he practices when he was just. So it's actually very molded. And because until this is in Romania, we have this expression that the first 7 years are the first 7 years at home. The first 7 years at home. This is how we call them about education. So what is happening in the first 7 years, it's that all the information goes into your subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind learns by repetition and association. So if you repeat all the time and you watch, you observe, and you repeat by
Hmm.
yourself, this comes as a habit in your mind because the first 7 years in your life has a very big impact as how you are as a person in life.
Hmm.
So the decision making that you are doing is based on those 7 years, and unfortunately, you have some traumas that you can carry them for the rest of your life, but you have very good values. You also carry them for the rest of your life. So that's the idea. That's why when you go to the kid that at a specific age between 5 and 8 years old to soccer or a specific training, the type of coach that you have is someone that actually loves to work with kids, actually uh, offers joy in the specific game, has the ability to every day or every 2 days to take the kids out for a play and make them love that sport. I don't need nothing for a specific coach at 5, 6, 7, 8 years old than to make that player or kid love what he's doing and to carry
Mhm.
that for the rest of his life, to create a passion in him.
I think the love aspect is a big one because, like here in America, for example, I think it's maybe more common than in Europe. But just the idea of parents pushing their kids so hard so early at one specific sport, and then by the age of 12 or 13, the kid hates the sport and he quits.
Yeah, but the problem with the parents, they are competing with another. So they
Yeah,
are
exactly.
competing which has a better kid, and they are not only forcing them to a specific sport. They don't have the kids don't have any time left for to be just a kid.
Yeah.
They go to lessons, piano lessons. They do extras for school. They go to soccer. They go to basketball. They go to run. They go to different activities that their parents are desperate to have the perfect kid and to be complete, which is actually more valuable and more reliable just to be the kid, be a kid. Every
Mhm.
specific age group has the specific learning. Let the kid be a kid. He cannot take decision at that age, but you can make him love his decision in the future
Mhm.
by creating, let him keep discover himself and his passions. Let him go outside, let him play in different environments, let him meet some different people, let him hurt himself like a kid will, run and fall or something like that.
Yeah.
Let him be a kid like we used to be a kid. Because nowadays kids are all rounders. Everybody wants to be all rounder at anything. I'm good at that, I'm good at that. Just be good at something that you actually love. In this competitive environment that we have with the social media, everybody wants to be the best. We need to
Mhm.
accept that we cannot be the best at everything. We have a specific level, and the level that we should have is that love what you are doing. That's it. That's the level that you should have. We love, of course, it's competitive. We should be the best version that we can be of ourselves. But the competition is me, not you, not anybody else, me. But first of all, if I'm not loving what I'm doing, I will not be able to reach the best level because it will not come intrinsic. It will be
Mhm.
extrinsic from a specific factor that is being told to me by somebody else that you should do it this way. That's
Mhm.
the idea. Build intrinsic passion in it, and you will discover your values and your love for different things later in life. Not only at 7 years old, you should know, or 10 years old, the parents ask what you want to do in life. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
He just discovered playing FIFA with his friends or something like that.
Yeah, that's often why I recommend for all my clients and any parents that I talk to is like please don't have your kids going to a trainer and doing drills all day. Just let him play the sport and like let him or like you said, give him the space to find that passion and that love. And I've seen in the research that like the brain learns a lot faster when you're in that flow state, we can say,
Yeah,
of passion.
yeah,
And I'm sure, like you've seen in Romania, like would you say, for example, a lot of the best players come from a background of just playing on the streets?
yeah. So everybody playing from rural
Yeah, yeah,
environments. Most of them not. But you learn a lot. The parents go to the kids to do specific drills
hmm
in physical or something. When I was a kid, or mostly going and on a tree is very valuable for your muscle and for your
yeah,
mobility and for motricity because it requires a lot of movements. You should know how to jump from that tree down. You
yeah,
should know how to climb that tree. You should know to have the balance to stay over there. So it's because the human mind is very adaptable. So when you go to an environment, he will adapt. The mind will adapt that to some specific things that will have better use later in life. You know.
mhm,
So when you go to do, for example, when you are a kid, I advise the people that before they go to football or soccer, we should do athletic. To go to run. To once a week or something to learn how to breathe when running, to know how to run correctly, because most of the kids don't know how to run or breathe correctly into specific. Uh, how do you say
mhm.
this in English?
The
we
biomechanics.
or when we say having I don't know the word right now, but so when you are having a specific run, they don't know how to breathe correctly. And when you are, you can also go to do martial arts, because when you do judo, for example, I did judo when I was a kid, so I learned how to fall, because you learn that. But
Mhm.
also when you are in the puberty area, which is also very important because you develop differently, your hands, your legs become longer, you don't have the same motricity, you have different interests in society, you have hormonal changes in you. So that's where most of the players lose themselves, because they don't have the same abilities. So you should do a sport specific that has discipline in it, because you should be very disciplined at this age, at puberty, because we all think that at puberty we know anything. We discovered the world, now I know. So it's very important to have discipline in your life, but especially start discipline at that specific age. And martial arts are a very good aspect in learning discipline.
I wish my father got me into that like when I was really young. My background was uh, only tennis. Like my whole family comes from tennis players, and we play like my uncles and my father played like at a high level in tennis, and I was like bred to be a tennis player from age like 3 or 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah,
But it's funny because that translated very well into being a defender because my speed like laterally I was the fastest player going sideways on the field. And also my
yeah,
ability to understand how the spin on the ball would affect where like how it would bounce and to win headers and to win crosses. Most players that I played with growing up and players that didn't have a background in tennis or like baseball for example wouldn't understand that because the ball is spinning that way, it's going to bounce and land over there, not over there. You know what I mean? So I
yeah,
think you're
yeah.
spot
I
on.
understand, because it's very adaptable. The minds learns very easy, and it's very quick that your minds do the calculations, to say like
Yeah.
this. For example, if you are talking about Messi, Messi was a short kid that adapted to the environment. They say, listen, I because I'm very short, to survive in the game that I'm doing, I should move and have a very good balance, and
Yeah.
dribble and to move sideways. You can see he doesn't do step overs. Messi never did a step over in his life. He has very good body movements because he learned this as a kid. In order, the body and the mind adapts very easy. So to be a successful person in life, you should be first of all adaptable. Bruce Lee said this because I grew up with those movies and said,
Mhm.
"Be water, my friend." Water, if you put water in a cup, takes the form of the cup. If you put in a glass, take the form of the glass. So that's why what he means be water. So be very adaptable, and also have discipline in what you are doing. If you don't have discipline, you'll not be very successful. No matter the environment what you have. I don't care how disciplined you are in your personal life, but with your job, you need to have discipline in order to be successful in that.
Yeah, spot on. It's I think it's there's that like eternal argument like saying, "Oh, is hard work more important or is talent more important?" I usually tell guys, "Yeah, talent's important, like obviously. Hard work also is important. You can't get to the top being lazy. But if you
Yeah,
have to decide, talent's the one that's going to get you somewhere, as
yeah,
opposed to being talentless and then working really hard. Because if you work really hard and don't become more talented, that means your hard work is not being applied very
yeah.
smartly. We can say.
So what is talent? Talent actually is the ability of the mind to do connections faster than anybody else.
Hmm.
So, talent is understanding how to use the resources better and faster than other people. That's talent. I have some qualities, and my mind understands my qualities, and they in specific situations very quickly. I use those abilities faster than anybody else. Hard work earns you repetition. So with repetition, you also learn little bit slower, but anything. You know the gold mine effect book, right? But and the idea of the 10,000 hours of
Yeah.
repetition that will make you expert in one field. But that's the idea. If you play on the street all the time, you'll reach much faster the
Yes.
10,000 hours than other kids that just go 2 hours a day or 1 hour a day to do a specific drill or specific training. When you stay 10 hours a day on on the field. That's why Brazilians do that. That's how South America, because they have this culture of being on the street. Where in the Europe or in the United States, we are afraid to let the kid now on the street because it's
Yeah.
dangerous, and say, it's dangerous. He can harm himself, or the effort is too big. It's not that way. The body adapts. No effort is too big when you are, or yeah, it can be big, but the body adapts to the
Yeah.
specific effort that you are doing. We tend to subestimate the mind and the body that we have, and how resilient it can be in different situations.
I agree. Would you say in Romania is some of it, is that like street football culture still there? Are things changing?
No, it's very present. The football culture is very present, but we have this idea that in the 90s we had good performances, especially in the
Mm,
US in 1994, where we reached the quarterfinals. We have that specific generation is named the golden generation of
mm,
Romanian football. But in the 80s, you also 80s 90s we had performances at European level. In '86, Steaua Bucharest won the Champions League, or how was named at the time. Dinamo went to the semifinals in those years. But the idea was that there weren't that much information available for the people, analysis and everything, and it was talent versus talent.
mm-hmm.
The idea was just to gather the most talented players in one place and use their talent. But nowadays, it's more physical. It's more being an athlete, having this routine, and having this discipline in what you are doing to being a top athlete in any sport at the moment. You have the NFL that it's very athletic. You have the NBA that is also very athletic. You have I admire the US because it's very sport minded, and you have this sport culture that goes from high school to college to, you have a specific path that you can follow if you want to go into
Yeah.
sports, and you have this respect for sports, which the Europeans they don't have. You have just specific academies, but you have the sport into the educational program that is very valuable. So that's why you have so many good athletes in the environment. While in Romania, if you want to go to play football, you go. I want to enter an academy, and that's it. You don't have specific governmental programs or educational programs that will guide you to specific
Mm-hmm.
environments in sports. But it's very well football minded, the Romanian. But the problem is we've lost our way in how to develop, and it's a frustration of mine.
Mm,
So that's why when I resigned from Dinamo Bucharest, I wanted to go outside of Romania.
mm-hmm.
But because again I'm Romanian, and even though I have a good CV, I applied to different positions. Let's say as a not only sporting director, as a first team scout. Also in the US, I applied maybe to work as a European scout or something like that. I couldn't get any messages back from the HR or something because they have a specific program. They say if you tick the boxes, you can move further to an interview. I'm sure if I will have an interview with someone over there, they will be I'll be quite good in that because I have 10 years experience, and not only
Mm.
the knowledge but the courses and everything. But that's the idea with the Romanian environment. If the Romanian environment is not very good, everybody is affected of it.
So would you consider working with a different club in Romania if things at Dinamo weren't the way that you liked it?
No, in Romania, I will not work with any club. It's
Mm,
possible to work with Dinamo Bucharest in the future, but in
mm,
Romania, I will not work with any other club because this is the club I love. I have
mm,
this dream 20 years ago and managed to reach it. I decided to resign because I saw that the people at the moment didn't trust the project. And now, after 6 months that I left, they see that actually what I did was pretty good. The players were good for that specific budget, and people
mm.
now started to appreciate my work that I did at that time. And it's possible in the future, I do not know, to work again with Dinamo. But my priority when I left was to work outside of Romania because I know I have the qualities and experience to do it.
Okay, understood. So I'm going to like rattle off a few questions that I can imagine people in the comments like wanting to ask.
Okay.
If I was like an 18-year-old kid and I was playing in the academy somewhere, what would be your recommendation to make it into the first team?
Well, depends on the club because on the level of
Exactly.
the club, because normally big clubs have development programs and they have a specific path for the players. They know at what level that those players are, and they have a loan manager that loans them out, or they have a second team. You have second teams in the US as well,
Yeah.
but it's very hard to loan the players in the US because there's big distances and it's very hard to follow the progress of the player. Depends mostly. I think that the development of players is the responsibility of the clubs.
Hmm.
50% or 60% of the responsibility of the club, 40% of what you are doing as a player, or mostly, let's say 70% of the club or 40% what you are doing. So I could not give an advice to enter because if you have the quality and you have the understanding and the discipline and you are doing the right things, you should normally knock the door of the first team eventually. You
Hmm.
cannot push your way to the first team because there is a coach over there, there's a manager, there's a sport director, everybody already knows you. If you are good, they will see you. Of course, the problem is that you have what you should not do is to listen to the people that advise you what to do around you, like your parents, your friends,
Yeah.
because they are subjective and they say, well, you are amazing, what you are not playing in the first team.
Hmm.
And you get frustrated and say, and you go into the victim mentality and say, somebody has something with me. They do not like me. It's not my fault. So when you start listening to the people that are around you and they people around you say you are very good, but the club has something with you, it's wrong. The club has
Hmm.
nothing with you because you are their asset. They have the whole interest in promoting you because you are valuable to them. The idea of a coach that he doesn't like you, it can happen when you are at the first team because he likes you as a person, as a player, but you cannot cover a specific role that he wants from that position in his team. I cannot tell you what you can do. The only thing you can do is patience and hard work and understanding that you are in a development program and it's a personal project and a club project in the same way, that you can be the best version of yourself by working out what you should do. Sleeping well, having the right nutrition. This you should do,
Hmm.
and you should not listen to the people around you that says you are great and nobody sees you, because you will enter this flow of victim mentality that will only harm you, and you will reach your 25 years old, 26, when you can quit football and say, I had bad luck in my career. Somebody had something with me, and and you will carry this victim mentality all your life, and you will think that everybody has something with you.
And that basically answers my second question, which is like so often like you hear like a player complain about politics or the coach doesn't like me, and in reality the club just wants to win football matches, and if you were good enough to execute your role on the pitch to help your team win, then you'd be on the pitch. But there's someone else, obviously, that the coach thinks that does better than you.
People tend in nowadays in this information era that they
Mm.
say I know better than anyone else. No, back in the days when you have education and studies, people respect you and say, listen, he have been went to school, to college, to everything. But people are a lot of self-taught and they say, well, I have information from the internet, so I know better, or I know people around me that tell me better. The idea of respecting the authority that is higher than you, and you think that people do not has the best, they don't have the best interest in you. They have the best interest in you in a club. But again, sometimes the club should develop. No, most of the time the club should develop a player, but sometimes your qualities or your specific position or role do not enter in the management of the first team. Coaches want to win games. The clubs should want to develop. Coaches should work under a specific philosophy that is being made by the sport director and the board. The coach should have a specific idea. Listen, we have those kids in the academy or those youngsters that break through to the first team, that they should have specific minutes, 2,000 minutes, 3,000 minutes for those under 18s, under 19s into the season. This is an objective that you should follow this year. I do not care who you put. You should offer 3,000 minutes to the kids that we have in our academy, and the coach. in his wisdom, will make specific programs and in specific games that he will know that at certain score lines he will debut or offer the debut to a player.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know the exact term in English. So yeah, offer the debut to a
Debut.
player
Yeah.
or develop him. The biggest advantage in the US is that you don't relegate. So the competition is not that fearful to say if I make a mistake, I will go down. In other competitions in Romania, coaches are fearful because they can lose their job because the player will lose the game. You have this mentality that is very good that even if you lose, nothing bad will happen. Like in all the sports, in the NBA, in the NFL, in the soccer and everything, you do not relegate. You have franchise systems that
Mhm.
is very good for the development. So if you use that development and that advantage that you have, that you cannot go worse than you already are. So in this idea, promote the kid, develop him.
That's an interesting point because I've always, I've always advocated that it was bad that America does not have relegation and promotion in their sports because of the lack of competition that it breeds. But you would argue that it would help development.
It will help development a lot because you don't have the risk. So you don't
Yes.
have the risk of losing. If you lose, what? What will happen? We'll lose a game. Okay. So in other championships, if you lose, you go down and you can go lower the division and the sponsors will disappear. The TV rights will go down. The players will leave your club. Here you can only develop. You can only go up. It's very advantageous for the development. The
Hmm.
competition is very good to say that what you can advocate to say, yeah, we cannot relegate, so the competition is not that fearful. People don't have the fear of losing or something like that. Fear is the killer of our dreams. People take decision out of fear in Europe because our coaches say, I cannot offer minutes to this kid because if I lose, they will kick me out or I
Hmm.
will relegate. While some teams, when there is half of season over in the US, they say, well, I cannot win the league or cannot go into the playoffs already, so I can might as well offer the minutes to the youngsters that actually are talented in my academy. So this is advantageous in all
Hmm.
the as environment and progress. It has its ups and downs, but
Mm,
this is
yeah.
advantage in my opinion.
But you think even when that kid gets more minutes on the pitch, because there's no urgency to win, like the risk of losing itself, I would argue would inspire more connections in the brain to develop talent better.
So why there is an urgency to win?
Mm.
Or there should be an urgency to win? That's the main question that I ask
Yeah,
for
yeah.
people.
Like I would say with specific individuals, there should be a holistic, passion to win, of course. But
Of
then,
course,
but
intrinsic.
yeah,
Yeah, sorry, intrinsic. You should win.
intrinsic, of course.
I should win. But in order to win, I need to collaborate with the people around me. I
Mm.
need to trust the people that I'm working with. So there is a problem in this, development that we are in that human or I, as a person, egocentric, are being put in the middle of things. If I make it, I'm the most important. I'm king. I'm queen. I'm number one. Society has evolved during the whole history because people collaborated with one with another. We as humans are in the top of the food chain because we collaborated between us better than other animals. Societies were formed by collaboration. Teams won because collaboration. Of course, the mentality of winning, I have the mentality of winning. I know you have the mentality of winning. I know a lot of people want to win, but what winning actually means? We need to define what winning is. If winning is winning a game Saturday from Saturday, I don't believe that actually is winning. Winning is progress. Winning a game is a consequence of the progress and the processes that I have behind that that win that game. So winning is amazing, but the progress and the processes that are behind it are more and more important, and we can only reach that stage if we are together. So collaboration is key in all the aspects,
Team sport.
particularly in sport, right?
Yeah, but team sport is it's not tennis, that's for sure.
It's not tennis, but also in tennis you have a team. You
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
physio, you have a manager, you have everything. So also is a team over there that is behind you. You are the main person in on the field, but you have a whole team behind you that supports you. Also there are not only 11 players or 25 players that are in the squad. You have a whole bunch of people that are supporting you with their decision and their work. Everybody should take merit for that, and everybody should be developing in the same way, developing
Mhm.
a specific player that is our star player or someone that is in front of us. It's like working in software. You have the front end and the back end. In front end, you
Mm.
have the 11 players, but in the back end, you have a lot of people that actually make those 11 players work.
As a final note, what would be like your concluding statement of how Romania should transform its football success?
Education. Education is the key in everything.
Hmm.
It's not about all the cultures that developed had education at base. Social education, I'm not talking about going to making masters over masters. Education, understanding why education is important. I need to understand why this is important. The problem is that people do not develop football clubs is because they don't see a process necessary. Why analysis is important? Why scouting is important? Why data is important? Why having a pathway for the kids and for the players is important? They say we don't need that because they don't see the value behind it. If you
Hmm.
are educated enough, you will see the value behind those processes. People have results on their mind because most of the time success was made only by winning, which normally success is again by the processes and the progress. We can only relate to win in Romania, winning from Saturday to Saturday, and in most environments, not only Romania, because that's the only form of success we ever met. There are other forms of success that we need to understand, that I'm a better person than last year. My progress in the last 10 years was amazing. Having this
Hmm.
dream and actually reaching it is amazing. I look at myself 5 years ago and I say, well, I didn't know nothing. I look at myself 10 years ago. I look at myself 1 year ago and I say, or 2 years ago, and I say, I didn't know nothing. So at this moment, you should know that you do not know nothing. I'm
Yeah.
young. I'm 46 years old. Imagine, I imagine myself how you know good I could be at 50. But in order to be good, I need to learn more and more and more and experience different environments and talking more to people, not only you know school wise, but also meeting and sharing experience with the people or being on the field. It's very very valuable to do volunteering for people. People tend to underestimate the value of volunteering or internships because you can have something that money cannot buy. You cannot buy meetings with pro athletes. If you are a
Hmm.
volunteer analyst, you stay with a pro athlete and you speak with him. You stay with the men coach and you speak with him. You cannot buy that. So being developing yourself, going to different internship programs or volunteering, being around specific people, just speaking with people will gain you valuable information in order to develop mostly. And this is the problem of Romanian football. And this tends to be the society worldwide right now. We think with the information that we already have that we already know.
Hmm.
We tend to confuse information with knowledge or intelligence. Information is one thing, knowledge is different thing because it you know has an intersection with experience at one point. And knowledge comes with patience and experience and risk taking and losing. So the fear of losing is great, but the last point I want to say that the biggest adversary of development is success. If you have success, you tend to lose the sight of developing because I'm good enough.
Hmm.
And it's very important to understand that When you are losing, you know what you have to do. But when you are winning, what you do when you are winning. Because when you win, you know what happened. I won the cup.
Hmm.
In Romania with a small team here, Fece Voluntar. But when you win games or championships and everything, the first thought when it comes in your mind is it's amazing. But after 1 hour, 2 hours, one day, you will say, now what? That's why you need to have all the time the progress in your mind specific pathways. You should take your dream and your objective, a high objective, put a high objective,
Hmm.
and then break it into small objectives. And the small objectives today or this week, this month, this year, but small steps. You need to make a plan. I have these objectives. I'm sure I can reach it, and create a pathway to go. Do not say, how will I get there? See where you want to get and create a path down the way that will help you reach that objective.
Yeah, it sounds like the short-term wins versus long-term success, creating a system, creating a culture in a club that wins for decades, as opposed to just winning some random match 1-0 on the weekend because of deflection off of someone's knee.
Yeah, that's the idea. So again, winning means okay, we can win a game, but what in our organization or culture, inside the club, a football club, we should define what actually winning means for us.
Yep.
Based on we talked in the first part of the podcast of the mission of the club, the vision, the strategy, and the identity of the club.
Spot on. So if you're watching this, Bournemouth or Arsenal or any club in Europe, you can hire Gabriel, send me an email, and I'll be his agent, and and we can negotiate. But Gabriel, I thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate the knowledge and experience and wealth that you bring. I'm sure everyone has enjoyed from listening to the last hour or so. Hopefully, in a year or so in the future, we can do another round to talk about the latest updates on your journey. And thank you again for coming on, Gabriel.
Thank you a lot for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. All right, guys. All the best. Episode 22 of Football of Truth.